The high school pool had been closed for 6 years, not because of budget cuts or structural damage. The school board said it was due to repeated mechanical failures. The real reason was kept out of the newspapers. The real reason was buried in a sealed file at the district office. I found out the real reason on a Tuesday night in November. My name is Daniel. I was a senior at Northwood High. I had detention for the rest of the semester because I got caught selling study guides to underclassmen. The detention supervisor was Coach Hendricks, a man who looked like he'd been carved from old leather. He gave me a choice: sit in the detention room every afternoon for 2 hours or clean the old pool building twice a week. I chose the pool. The pool building stood behind the main school. It was a low concrete block with a flat roof. The windows were painted black from the inside. The double doors had a chain wrapped around the handles with a padlock the size of my fist. Coach Hendricks gave me a key to the padlock and a key to the side door. He told me to sweep the deck, check for leaks, and make sure no animals had gotten inside. He said I should not go near the water. He said the water was not treated anymore. I asked him why they kept the pool full. He did not answer. He just handed me a flashlight and walked away. The first time I opened the side door, the air hit me like a wall. It was warm and wet and thick. The smell was not chlorine. It was something older, something like rust and wet leaves and the inside of a grave. I stepped inside, and the door closed behind me with a hydraulic hiss. The flashlight cut a white cone through the dark. I stood on a concrete walkway that ran around the entire pool. The water was black. Not dark blue, not murky green, black. The surface did not move. There was no ripple, no reflection, nothing. The black just sat there like a solid thing. The pool was Olympic-sized, 50 meters long, 25 meters wide. The deep end went down to 15 feet. I knew this because a faded depth chart still hung on the wall near the diving boards. The diving boards were still there, one low board and one high board. The high board had a crack running down the center of the fiberglass. I swept the deck that first night. The broom made a scraping sound that echoed off the walls. The echo came back wrong. It came back too slow, like the sound had to travel through something heavy before it bounced. I finished the sweeping in 20 minutes. I checked the doors. I locked up and left. The second night was the same. The third night was the same. By the fourth night, I started to notice things. The first thing I noticed was the ladder. There was a metal ladder at the shallow end, bolted into the concrete. The ladder went down into the black water. The top rungs were dry, but the third rung down was wet, not with dripping water. It looked like someone had wiped their hand across the metal. I touched the rung. It was warm. The air in the pool building was warm, maybe 75 degrees. The rung was warmer, maybe 90 degrees. I pulled my hand back. The second thing I noticed was the kickboards. They were stacked on a metal cart near the deep end. The cart had wheels that were rusted solid. The kickboards were old foam, yellowed with age. On the fourth night, the top board was missing. I found it floating in the shallow end. The board floated face down. I used a long pole with a hook to pull it to the edge. When I grabbed the board, it was warm, the same temperature as the ladder rung. I told Coach Hendricks about the board. He looked at me for a long moment. His eyes were gray and flat. He said, "Stay out of the water." Then he walked away. On the sixth night, I heard the splashing. I was sweeping the deck near the diving boards. The deep end was to my left. The black water was still. Then I heard a sound like a hand slapping the surface. A single splash. I turned off the flashlight. The dark was complete. I stood in the dark and listened.
The splash came again. It came from the deep end, then another splash, then a rhythm, splash, 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 like someone doing laps. But I could not see anything. The water was black. The sound moved from the deep end toward the shallow end, then it stopped. I turned the flashlight back on. The water was still. No ripples, no waves, nothing disturbed the black surface. But I saw something on the deck near the shallow end. A wet footprint. One footprint, toes pointed toward the ladder. I left the side door without locking the side door. I ran back to the main school. Coach Hendricks was in his office. I told him about the splashing and the footprint. He did not look surprised. He told me to go home. He told me not to come back to the pool building. He said he would find someone else for cleaning the building. I should have stopped there. I know that now, but I was 17, and I was curious, and I was stupid. I went back the next night. I went back because I had to see what was in the water. The side door was unlocked. I had left it that way. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The air was hotter than before. The smell was stronger. I could taste it now. It tasted like pennies and dirt. I walked to the edge of the deep end and pointed the flashlight down into the black water. The light did not penetrate. It just hit the surface and stopped. The water absorbed the beam completely. I knelt down and put my hand on the deck. The concrete was warm. I leaned over and touched the water with my fingertip. The water was hot, not warm, hot, like bath water, like the water in a hot tub. I pulled my hand back. My fingertip was red. The splash came from directly below me, a loud slap of water against water. I jumped back. The flashlight slipped from my hand and clattered onto the deck. The beam spun and then pointed at the ceiling. The pool building went dark except for the weak light bouncing off the white ceiling tiles. I heard something climbing the ladder. The sound was metal against metal, rung by rung. The ladder was at the shallow end, 50 meters away, but the sound traveled through the dark like it was right next to me. Clink, clink, clink. Each rung. The ladder had 10 rungs. I counted them. Clink, 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 clink. Then a wet footstep on concrete. I grabbed the flashlight. I pointed it toward the shallow end. A figure stood at the top of the ladder. It was the shape of a person. It was the size of a child, but it was not a child. Its skin was gray and slick. Its arms hung down past its knees. Its fingers were long, and they ended in points. Its face had no features, no nose, no mouth, just smooth gray skin stretched over a skull that was too large for its body. The figure stood still for 3 seconds, then it tilted its head. The head tilted so far that it touched its own shoulder. The skin on its neck stretched, but did not tear. I ran. I ran for the side door. I did not look back. I heard wet feet slapping on concrete behind me. The sound was fast, faster than me. I reached the door and shoved it open. The November air hit my face. I spun around and slammed the door shut. I held the handle. The door shook. Something hit the other side. The door shook again. Then the shaking stopped. I stood outside in the cold for 10 minutes. My breath came out in white clouds. The pool building was quiet. I walked back to the main school. I found Coach Hendricks in the gym. He was alone. He was sitting on the bleachers with his head in his hands. I told him what I saw. He did not look up. He said, "Sit down." I sat down next to him.
He said, "In 2016, a freshman girl drowned in that pool. Her name was Emily Tran. She was on the swim team. She was doing laps after practice. The coach went to his office. The other swimmers went to the locker room. Emily stayed in the water. When they came back, she was gone. They found her at the bottom of the deep end. Her body was pressed against the main drain." He stopped talking. He rubbed his face with both hands. He said, "The drain cover was missing. It had been removed. Her arm was inside the pipe up to the elbow. They had to cut the pipe to get her out. The medical examiner said she did not drown. She was pulled into the pipe. The suction was so strong that it broke her bones. She was alive when it happened." I asked him what that had to do with the thing I saw. He said, "The pool was drained after that. They were going to fill it in, but the construction crew refused to work. They said they heard crying from the empty pool. They said they saw a gray shape moving along the bottom. The school board decided to refill the pool. They thought the water would keep it contained." He looked at me. His eyes were wet. he said. It did not contain it. The thing in the water has been growing. It started small, a shadow in the deep end. Then it started taking things, kickboards, towels, a lifeguard's whistle. Last year, a janitor went in to fix a pipe. He came out with scratches on his legs, deep scratches. He quit the next day. I asked him why the school did not just drain the pool again. He said, they tried. They brought in a pump. The pump ran for 6 hours. The water level did not go down. The pump was pulling water out, but the water was coming back in from somewhere. They checked for leaks. There were no leaks. The water was coming from the drain pipe, the same pipe that took Emily Tran. I stood up. I told him I was never going back to the pool building. He nodded. He said that was the right choice. I walked home that night. I did not sleep. I lay in bed and thought about the gray figure on the ladder. I thought about its featureless face. I thought about the way it tilted its head. I thought about the warm water and the wet footprint and the missing kickboard. The next morning, I went to school. The pool building was still standing behind the main school. The black windows faced the parking lot. I did not look at them. At lunch, my friend Marcus asked me if I wanted to see something weird. He said a maintenance worker had found something in the pool building that morning. I said I did not want to see it. He showed me anyway. He pulled out his phone and opened a photo. The photo showed the shallow end of the pool. The black water was still, but floating on the surface was a high school letter jacket. The jacket was blue and white. The jacket had my name embroidered on the chest, Daniel. The jacket was soaking wet. Water dripped from the sleeves. The photo had been taken from the walkway, looking down. I could see the ladder in the background. The ladder rungs were all wet now, every single rung. And at the bottom of the ladder, just below the waterline, I could see 2 pale hands gripping the metal. The hands had long fingers that ended in points. I asked Marcus when the photo was taken. He said 6 a.m. I asked him if the maintenance worker saw anything else. Marcus said the worker saw weird footprints on the deck. I am writing this from my bedroom. It is 11 at night. My window faces the back of the school. I can see the pool building from here. The black windows, the flat roof, the side door that I forgot to lock. The door is open now. I can see it from my window. The door is open and there is a light inside. Not a flashlight, not a work light. It is a green light, the color of deep water, the color of the bottom of a pool when the filter has been off for years. The light is moving. It is coming toward the door. I hear splashing. The splashing is loud. It sounds like something large is climbing out of the water, something larger than a child, something the size of a grown person, something that has been growing in the dark for 6 years. The light is at the door now. The figure is standing in the doorway. It has no eyes, but I know it sees me. It raises one long arm. It points at me with a finger that ends in a point. I am going to lock my bedroom door now. I am going to push my dresser against it. I am going to call the police. But I already know what they will find. They will find the pool building empty. They will find the water black and still. They will find my jacket floating in the shallow end. And tomorrow night, when the pool is dark and quiet, the ladder will make a sound. Clink, clink, clink. 10 rungs. And then a wet footstep on concrete. And then another, coming closer, coming home.